Which Side Podcast is a proud member of the Which Side Media Collective.
So this week's episode is brought to us by our Amazon affiliate link.
It's super simple how it works. Just go to whichsidepodcast.com, click through our Amazon link, and we get a kickback of anything you buy.
We get a little, they get a little less.
So if you're already planning on buying from Amazon, please go do the link. It just doesn't cost you anything. It helps us out. And like Jordan said, they get a little bit less money while we get a little bit of it.
If you're looking for something to get, you should check out Vegan Finger Foods, more than 100 crowd-pleasing recipes for bite-sized eats everyone will love. It's by Celine Steen and Tamasin Noyes.
Check out the link in the show notes. This is episode 145.
Yeah, we talked to David Sutherland of Mammoths.
I love this conversation. We talk a little bit about GMOs. We talk about some common misconceptions. We also talk about DXE and my misconceptions. It's a fun conversation.
Yeah, and if you're kind of confused about why we're talking about GMOs, you should check out vegangmos.com. It kind of gives a little bit of an insight about how GMOs and veganism are connected.
Yep. So what news and events we have going on this week, Jordan?
Well, if you're in Salt Lake City tomorrow, we're doing the monthly Anarchist Black Cross Prisoner letter writing night at the library. So check that out. If you're not in Salt Lake, then you should just write a letter anyway.
There's plenty of people that need them written to, so just sit down and do it.
Also, in France, there was a statue of a bullfighter that was cut down.
That just makes me giggle. I'm sorry. If you have any events going on in your neck of the woods, drop us a line. We'd be glad to shout them out for you.
This week's episode shout-out comes from friend of the program and past guest, Charlotte Malrich. Charlotte said that we could shout out whatever we want. Charlotte always says we can shout out whatever we want. Charlotte's pretty awesome.
I love you, Charlotte.
So we're going to say to donate to Nicole and Joseph's Legal Defense Fund. If you're not familiar with that case, they were recently indicted before the Animal Rights Convention on conspiracy to commit animal enterprise terrorism or something ridiculous like that.
And they can really use all of your support, so just make sure to let them know that we as a community are standing behind them.
Let's slingshot this over to Jeremy. Bam!
For the slingshot this week, on the 17th of August, 1910, women strikers broke through police lines, demolishing a New York factory after it opens in defiance of a strike. Way to go.
Yeah.
I love reading that stuff.
Worker power.
You know, if you love these little tidbits of history that we pull out every single week, I get them out of the Slingshot Personal Organizer, you should support them. They're an awesome collective. And you can get one at a local info shop or an online info shop like AK Press.
They release a new one every year, so be sure to grab one.
This sounds super addy, but they don't pay us. We just actually like them. I mean,
Fact.
If they want to pay us, go ahead. But they don't.
Fact.
I sincerely hope you enjoy this episode.
What's up, motherfuckers?
How's it going?
Hey, guys.
Hey. So, how's your day going?
Oh, pretty good.
Where are you at? Like, is it like early evening or late evening?
Well, that's relative, but it's 7:30 here in Chicago.
Oh, okay, Chicago. So you're only like an hour difference than us.
Oh, really?
I get so fucking confused with time zones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, me too. I need the computer to do that for me.
Yeah.
I hate the ones that like you go like I deal with some people in India and they were like on half-hour time zones and it's like, well, you're 11 and a half hours. I'm like, that's so stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have studios in India, and I'm glad I don't have to deal with them that often because the time difference in Australia and follow. Yeah, so it's crazy.
Studios, like what do you do with it?
At work.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So.
Fun.
Yeah, but I'm really excited to talk to you guys. I've been listening to your podcast for a while. Actually, to be honest, I really thought your podcast sucked when I first heard it.
It did. It did.
No, it's because I first got turned on to your podcast through my buddy James Foley. Foley.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's when I first heard it, and then I was like, this is a really weird format. It's like it's really informal. There's like no editing. It's a little bit awkward, but I'm like, then I got like addicted to it. And I thought it like was really charming, And then you have this like wide array of guests, and like it's I don't know something interesting about it. So I'm just like I really grew to love it. So I love what you guys are doing. So I don't hate you guys anymore. Or your podcast.
That's fair.
I mean, I guess I still kind of hate us a little bit, but no, thank you so much. Like, we actually do a lot more editing than people think.
Really?
Maybe I shouldn't admit to that.
Well, I mean, you guys are always kind of bragging about how you don't edit. And it sounds like you don't edit. I think they must do some editing because guests will call in and they'll start talking like, okay, when are we starting? And you're like, yeah, we're recording now. And it's funny, it just kind of. It's neat, but so you do edit.
Well, most of the edits are like Skype errors and things like that. We'll try to clean those up and get those out. Mm-hmm. I only like once or twice we've had a guest be like, "Hey, I probably shouldn't have said that. Can you take that out?" We're like, "Yeah, sure." I mean, we're not here to throw anyone under the bus for anything,
Well, or reveal personal information or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
It's usually like we get them on such a personal level, and they throw someone under the bus, like, yeah, I really fucking hate Gary Francione. And like, oh, yeah, I probably shouldn't have said that. Can you take that out?
That is really funny because in the episode that just got released, I did a Francione remark, and afterwards I'm like, I should probably take that out. Never did. Fuck that. Whatever. I don't.
Fuck Francione. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we can remove that if you want.
No, that you can leave in.
So how did you know Jamie?
Gosh, where did I find him? I think maybe it was I think we bumped into each other on Twitter or something. It's that whole like vegan skeptic kind of intersection. Mm-hmm. So the thing about you guys too, and I think and this is true of Jamie, and we're finding more and more of these vegans that are skeptical, right? So like the vegan crowd tends to be really wooey and stuff. And I was kind of from that area too. But then I kind of had this like this like discovery, like this rebirth of being a skeptic. And so I was this vegan skeptic. And then I have this like online persona, Pythagorean crank. And that's my like insider critique of veganism with the skeptical lens, hoping to kind of like try to fix the problems, but also kind of reveal them and illuminate some of these issues. And I think it was through like Twitter that I found, gosh, I got to think about that now, but I think we found each other on Twitter. And then then Facebook, we got connected and I met him at TAM and we kind of hung out there. And then we just started collaborating on different projects. So, it's been years since we've been kind of like virtually hanging out.
I've still yet to go to TAM.
I know, I was going to say the same thing. It's always been on my list of like things I have to do and I've never been.
Too late. It's done.
Yeah, I know.
Well, this year, right? It's not over.
Yeah, they just had their. Oh wait, no, they just had their last one. Yeah, just like think like a week ago or something. It ended.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's gonna be other kind of flavors of. I mean, there's all kinds of conferences going on that are skeptically, minded. TAM was cool because James Randi and all that. But
so it's gone. Like no more.
Unless they. Yeah, as far as I know, it's gone. Like I haven't really been dipping into the skeptical crowd too much lately, but from what I understand, it's like that's the last year they're doing it.
That sucks.
Am I the only one that doesn't like the term skeptical? I'm not like huge into the skeptical community, but I've just never been like a fan of that term.
In what way?
I'm a little skeptical of it.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like it makes you feel like you don't like you're. And I guess it's true in a sense, like you're questioning everything, but to a degree of like you're questioning everything because people have confused it to be like, oh, you're skeptical, so you like believe in lizard people. I'm like, no.
Yeah, like climate change skeptics or
exactly,
which really means denialists. But yeah, no, the term is kind of goofy. And yeah, I kind of use it as a shorthand, just like I do with like GMO. Say like GMO means nothing, but it's also shorthand. Vegan actually is another word that kind of like, what the fuck does that mean? Like I'm still trying to figure out after 15 years of being vegan. So,
I mean, you do know the etymology of vegan, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, oh gosh, I've been trying to figure it out for the past like 10 years, like digging into the archives, looking at Donald Watson and all these other philosophers, and what it means. Oh, believe me, I've been there. I'm still going through it.
Why do you feel the need to dive into it so much?
Well, okay, so like I do a lot of projects, right? And back in the day, I started. When I first became vegan, I was like, the lonely vegan, and I wanted to find other vegans, right? So I started a vegan meetup, in Chicago. Like Meetup was like a new website at the time. Are you familiar with meetup.com?
Yeah. Are they still around?
Oh my God, I know, right? Isn't that weird? Yeah, they're still around, and actually I'm still running the same fucking meetup. But so to find other vegans, right? Like I reached out and basically, like, okay, origin story time, right? So I became vegan and I was a part of this vegan forum. Like back in the day, they didn't have fucking Facebook and all this shit now. They had internet forums, right? Message boards. And there's this message board called the Vegan Message Board, the VMB. And I found it. It was like awesome. And I was just like, I was addicted to it. And like, oh my God, I was on it every day. And then suddenly like it went down I don't know if it got hacked or the software failed or whatever. And there's this like huge vegan community. I mean, it's one of the only vegan communities on the internet. Like there was a bunch of vegetarian ones, but this was like vegan, right? So I emailed the admin. I was like, look, there's this huge community that's stranded. We didn't think that the forum would just magically vanish. So we didn't have any way of contacting each other. And we were all desperately trying to, get a hold of each other. So I'm like, when are you going to get the board back online? And he was like burned out. He's like, you know what? I'm done with the drama. I don't want to do it. And he was kind of being wishy-washy. So like I busted out the books and I'm like, what does it mean to host a website? What does it, how does the software work and stuff? And I stayed up late nights and figured it out and got a new forum back online. I called it Vegan Represent. And the idea was like, we're vegans and we're going to represent this idea. We're going to, try to get the vegan word out there and also connect all these people. So I got the board back online, got a bunch of people back on, and then had that, online presence. But in the same, like a few months later, I got the vegan meetup going on locally so I can meet people face to face. So I had Vegan Represent going on, and then I had this vegan meetup, which is now called Vegan Chicago, which is a meetup I still run today.
That is amazing that you still run it today.
Yeah, both actually. Vegan Represent didn't really go away. So we were talking about this, trying to figure out the word vegan and why I'm kind of struggling with that. It was because when I was running Vegan Represent, we had a lot of deep conversations about animal rights and veganism. I was a raw foodist. I was into the woo. But then when I became a skeptic, when I discovered critical thinking, like it blew my vegan mind, right? Like I was like, all these things I thought, are totally wrong. And they're really fucking up veganism. Like it's making veganism really hard when you have to eat organic and you have to not eat cooked foods and you have to drink, green smoothies, all this bullshit, that, all that baggage that goes with veganism. I'm like, this is fucked up, right? So, so I kind of brought these questions to my trusted, members, and I was like, what does this word vegan mean? Like, does it just mean we're not eating animal products, and what is it doing for animals, and what line, how many animal products do you not need to eat to be vegan? And like, and I, like, what did Donald Watson say? So like, we're looking at what does that word mean? And he coined it back in this, but then the Vegan Society changed it, and blah, 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 blah. And I got so frustrated. I was like, you know what? If the word vegan doesn't mean anything, I'm just going to rename, I'm done with the word. Like, I'm just going to rename the forums what it is, plant-based people. And they got really upset. People were like, oh, well, we want to fight for the word, we want to keep it, we want to like reclaim it, all this stuff. I'm like, it's not worth it. And so I kind of renamed the forums Plant-Based People, kind of like as like a tongue-in-cheek kind of jab at the whole plant-based diet thing, which is kind of bullshit. It totally is, yeah. So, and then everybody left. So just a handful of people stayed, and then I just kind of gave up. The Plant-Based People forums are still up there, and all the archives are still there. I kept it up, but nobody's like at the helm admitting, and I kind of shut it down. Like, you can't sign in, but it's still there because there's tons of really interesting information and stories up there. I think it's Jeremy, who's into the origin stories.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I was like obsessed with origin stories too, because I wanted to find that key to unlock to get people vegan. Like, what does it take? So in order to become a full-fledged member of Vegan Represent back in the day, I was encouraging people to post their vegan story. So we had this forum called Vegan Stories, and they would post their long story about how they became vegan. And I tried to, through all those stories, we collected like 1,700 stories or something. Through all those stories, I kind of wanted to see what the pattern was, right? And so I heard, so through Vegan Represent and Vegan Chicago, I just met I met so many vegans and I heard so many stories, and it really didn't amount to much to what I was really interested in, which was animal rights. So now today I kind of like delineate between veganism and animal rights, and that still gets confusing to a lot of people, but I don't think they're one and the same, and it's something I still struggle with today. So with trying to run, like the message board is done, but when I run Vegan Chicago, for example, I try to like make a mission that supports the vegans or supports what we're trying to do with animal rights. And so I'm always struggling with, should we say vegan? Should we not say vegan? What does vegan mean? And what somebody comes to my meetup and says, "Is this vegan? How does that work?" and all that stuff. So it's still, still an issue.
I love the idea that you separate like the animal rights and veganism, because it just made me like reflect on myself real quick. Like, people always ask my origin of veganism, but I don't think I've ever really shared like, oh, this is how I got into animal rights, and this is like the first thing I organized, and I find that actually way more interesting.
Yeah, it's funny because people come from veganism from all different ways. Of course, we all know this, right? They come there through health or environment or animals, blah, blah, blah. And then they always go like, well, I'm an animal rights, I'm an ethical vegan. And I wasn't when I first started. I was a health vegan. And so that's the right way. We should be advocating for the health because obviously it worked for me. We know this as skeptics. That's not true. Not necessarily. And I think that's also disingenuous. I don't think you should advocate for a cause deceptively, right? I think you should have integrity and lay your arguments out and be very transparent. But with the vegan advocacy, I just see tons of rhetoric and ploys and appeals and goofy shit all the time. And like, do we want to encourage that kind of behavior? Like the people who get suckered into veganism for some bullshit reason, like is that a good foundation to build a movement, right? Do you want to get, non-critical thinkers or do we want to try to aim for the critical thinkers who will have the best arguments? I don't know. So advocating a cause, like how do I advocate a cause? What is that cause? And my cause is animal rights and liberation. And then so Vegan Chicago, we have these events, right? So we have our popular event is the Dine Out. Every fucking first Saturday for the past 12 years, 13 years. We do our dine outs, and people love those, right? So it's a vegan meetup, right? You expect food, right? So I was trying to get away from the food aspect. I want to de-emphasize the food aspect of veganism. So we started doing things like vegan on taps, we call these. So vegan on taps are like vegan drinks, right? You go to a bar and you hang out with vegans. So it's going to tend to attract people who are not so much into the health aspects, although they do come out, and I encourage it. And then you're not stuck at a table and you have like a drink, and then you get to interact a little bit more, blah, blah, or you don't drink either or whatever. And then we also had leafletting events, right? So we partnered with Mercy for Animals and other organizations, and we would encourage people to come out and do leafletting events, right? So, leaflet, like vegan outreach stuff. But then I had this crisis of faith in veganism, and I was like, you know what, this vegan stuff's bullshit. I don't want to advocate for it. I don't want to advocate for veganism. I want to advocate for animal rights. And what does that mean? Nobody knew. And I was like, well, until I know more, I'm just putting the brakes on all vegan advocacy. And I pissed off a lot of people and that kind of stuff. And now, so Vegan Chicago kind of like just had these events where it was just like, oh, we're just vegan events. And then we started getting more political. So I started trying to support vegans. So like, what is our mission? You know, so I wanted to kind of like, I wanted to support vegans and keep them vegan. Like a lot of organizations are advocating for people to go vegan, but not a lot of organizations are helping the vegans stay vegan. So we were like, well, we'll support our local community of vegans. So what does that mean for, and what it meant for us wasn't just like, oh, here's a vegan restaurant, or, you know, we have like our Yelp list for vegan restaurants and stuff. We do that. But also it meant like, you know, with the whole like raw food, we have a huge raw food community, and I distanced myself from that. You know, the whole raw food, woo, organic, all that stuff. I kind of wanted to, you know, like we can't be arbiters of thought. We can't be like, well, that's bullshit, and then, you know, whatever. Can't think for people. So we wanted to kind of like empower people to think for themselves. So I put out this critical thinking guide. I did this leaflet, and I collaborated with a bunch of vegans on this. And it's like this. It's called this bologna detection guide. And on a cover it says like bologna is not vegan, right? And so like the whole idea is like bologna, like junk, you know, information is not vegan, right? So we're trying to encourage critical thinking so that people could defend themselves instead of us, you know, doing that kind of thing. So, and then recently we got back on the activism wagon when DXC started up again, and that's an animal rights organization that it's like the first one that's come along in a long time that I actually agreed with. And I was like, you know what, I like this stuff. So we kind of partnered up with them. So now we offer activism events through Vegan Chicago again, through DXC.
Okay, there's like 5 things in there that I want to follow up on, but
you know what? Sorry, when I get on a roll, I start kind of ranting, so you could like slow me down.
Oh, no, it's totally cool. But the last one I think was what really struck me. You're talking about DXC, and for me personally, I don't find the draw of DXC. So yeah, let me know if am I missing something here? Like
no. Go ahead. I mean, go ahead.
And you know, so I came to it completely the opposite way of you did. I came into animal rights from the animal rights perspective and just said, well, veganism is part of it, and then kind of like the woo health, you know, movement kind of started picking up in the late 90s a little bit more, and that, you know, so, and that's when I also am like, oh, people don't eat hydrogenated oil, like really? I have to do this to be vegan? I remember anyways. So I came to it from that animal rights perspective, and at that time it wasn't about, you know, pushing veganism. It was mainly furriers and vivisection, right?
Yeah.
And so I totally understand like the aspect of like what DXC is doing, but the actions themselves, I mean, I'll get in trouble for this. They seem meaningless.
Yeah, no. You're not going to get in trouble. I hope you're not. The DXC people I know aren't like that. So anyway, okay, I hear you, man. When I first became vegan because for ethical reasons. I was like, I was actually influenced by people that were vegetarian around. And then I was like, oh, this vegetarian thing. And suddenly it clicked. And then I was like, well, I'm still drinking milk and eating that kind of, you know, that. And it slowly was like, wait a minute, you know, it's all bad. So then I came from the ethical part. And then I, you know, then like you, you know, then I was like, well, you know, I heard this person say raw food. You know, we went to a raw food restaurant. Like we didn't know what it was. It was a vegan restaurant. We went and it's like, well, all this food is kind of weird. What's going on with this? And then, you know, that's how they get you, right? So they're like, well, we're vegan, but we're raw food, and, you know, no other animal cooks our food, and blah, 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 blah. And we're like, holy shit, that makes sense. Because I'm not a critical thinker. I'm just like, you're going along with it. And I'm vegan and they're vegan, so I'm going to trust them. And I was a raw foodist. And then, so I just went down this rabbit hole, right? And then when I became skeptical, I had this chip on my shoulder because I felt like nobody was there for me. Like the people around me never said, hey, Dave, wait, you know, you don't need to do all that. They just kind of like, oh, you're cool. You're raw food. That's cool. You know, that kind of thing. Like there's this like attitude that nobody's looking out for you. And then so I have this, axe to grind now. So in terms of the origin thing, that's similar, but the DXC thing, I get that, like that's I think I hear this. DXC people say this all the time, right? The first time they see a DXC action, there's like, what the fuck is that? That's meaningless. There's nothing behind it. It's just causing drama. And I felt similarly, but then when Wayne came into town and did his talk, and I know Wayne, one of the founders of DXC from a long time ago. He used to be a very active activist in Chicago. Mm-hmm. It was actually one of his articles that I read about boycotting veganism that kind of helped frame my own activism too. So the DXC thing, when I heard the ideas behind it, I felt like it was one of the most evidence-based, because he was looking at veganism as a social justice, or animal rights as a social justice issue, which it is. So why aren't we treating it like that? Why are we treating it like a consumerist approach? So to be honest about it, and to go to a place where dead animals are on display and then kind of like disrupt that action, or what's going on right there. That's, animals are the idea that animals are okay to use their bodies and kill. That's happening all over us, right? So they do the actions where they go right there and they stand in between the consumer and the dead animal, and like, this is what's going on. These are their stories. And they have these campaigns that are carefully crafted and messaged to kind of like try to draw out that idea. And they're new. DXC is still a new organization, and we're still working on things. But I think it's like it's new and innovative, and it's a little bit aggressive for some, and it's hard to get into it. But like after you do a couple, it's like it makes a lot of sense. I don't think it clicks. Is there something else I could kind of like help clarify?
So for me, at least, the drama, that it's nothing about it. The aggressiveness, to me, I don't think it's very aggressive at all. That it's not that aspect of it. Like, so
I kind of see what you're saying. Like, my activist roots are locking down to a building.
Yeah, exactly. I'm used to that, like confrontation, aggression.
Oh yeah,
I'm 100% okay with that. Maybe it's the shortness of it. Maybe it's the lack of more confrontation. Maybe it's that it's just the new kid on the block that's actually doing shit, and I'm just an old guy that's like, why can't there be more old ADLs? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And when I first started, I would do demos with ADL and all that stuff with the fur and stuff. So I took a kind of break. So maybe I guess I was looking for something to get to start again with it. So maybe it was. I don't know. I guess I'm biased, right? I knew Wayne, and I knew his ideas, and it took me years for these ideas to sink in. So, when people first see DXC, I don't know what I just can imagine what they're thinking. Like, but they're trying to build a long-term thing too. It's not. Yeah. It's a lot of work. I don't envy the lead organizers, because they're trying to build a community, and that's important, right? So, and it's
I feel like I'm compelled to say, like, I'm not putting them down at all.
No, they love critique. They love hearing this. So yeah, please.
I have the utmost respect, and anyone who's not an activist or vegan, I am 100% behind DXC, and be like, they fucking have the right. I will support them. I will do whatever, 100%. I guess some of the biggest problems I have is the ideology. I don't know if I call it ideology, but the thinking that I've heard of, the second touches of the actions, like the people that are reached by posting it on social media, or maybe that's just my age.
What do you mean, the social media?
So like I've been told that by several DXC members, and we had one as a guest that said this.
Priya, yeah.
Yeah, that the purpose of most of the actions aren't the people there; it's the secondary connections that you create by the people that are reached, through the second, that second level and the third level down, right? And to me. And again, maybe it's just I'm out of touch. I'm totally okay admitting that. But it just seems like that's patting yourself on the back. Like, that's look at my activism to everyone else on my social media who's already know that I'm an activist and I'm friends with. So it's just going around my own goddamn circles still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you know what? Some people don't want that to be out there. Like, we have got a lot of activists coming out going like, you know what? I don't want my face on camera. I mean, we have activists who don't come out because they don't want to be on camera because of their job or whatever, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
But part of this movement needs to happen that, you got to be proud of doing this, right? We got to draw people out and show there are a lot of people behind this. And so we don't kind of like force the issue on people. Like, if they're comfortable coming out there, yeah, but we have all kinds of roles that you don't have to be in from the camera. So with that out of the way, the social media aspect is a huge part of the campaigns, because when you're in Whole Foods, you're a dozen people or whatever, 200 they have in the Bay Area, shutting down Whole Foods meat section. You're only reaching, the immediate people there. So that needs to be in social media. It needs to needs to have that viral effect, because you're trying to inspire people to become activists, and they're doing it. Like, all over the world, there's new chapters starting up. Somebody in India sees a video and they start their own chapter, and so there's a viral component to it. But it's all about real world. It needs to be more in real world. Like, I think there's been a lot of like the social media stuff, but more and more it needs to be a real world thing, because that's how it's going to sustain. A movement needs to sustain on that. I don't think social media is the end all be all. It's like a tiny part, although it's a crucial part to inspire other activists.
I will give them amazing props, because they're the first grassroots organization that's actually getting shit done in a very long time. And that's very true. They're really pulling people out, and we haven't seen that in the U.S. on a grassroots level probably since 2004 or 5-ish.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So like Shack campaigns even.
I mean, yeah, that's amazing, and so they're doing something right. Like, I'm not saying they're not.
It almost seems like there was like a Shack hangover. Like, the animal rights that movement kind of it just kind of like burned out a little bit.
Oh yeah,
and then like there's this resurgence again, but it's still a little bit different. So old timers kind of like looking at this, going like, what the hell is this all about?
So you're calling me an old timer now?
Yeah. I'm an old timer with you, man. We're old school, right? Like,
but like, to be
there's
honest,
no shame in that. No shame in that. We're not ageist here. So
I haven't been really compelled to go to an actual protest in probably 10, 15 years. No, I wouldn't say 15, probably 10-ish years, right? Wait, it's 2015. Yeah, well, almost 15 years, right? 13-ish probably. Just until recently. Sorry. Like, and it's really because of like some of the DXE stuff. Like, they've really pushed that resurgence of that grassroots get shit done. And maybe I have a little bit of problem with the term civil disobedience that they use.
Direct action,
excuse me. Yeah. Because I take that old school civil disobedience aspect of it, where like you go there and you're there to disrupt not just the people there, but the capitalism aspect of it, and shut them the fuck down.
You would lock down to the meat department instead of just grabbing the
and walking. Yeah, and maybe so. It's not like a huge. I don't like what they're doing. It's just something doesn't sit right with me about it. Does that make sense?
You know what? Does it seem like a Disney version of what you're used to?
Yes, exactly. That's a brilliant way of putting it.
I think I hear what you're saying. Like, I think I understand, because direct action means, like, you know what? I understand that. Like, direct action means something, and it used to mean what you were talking about. It meant a very more aggressive approach. Like, you're locking down, you're going to jail, like you're being hauled off, that kind, right?
Yeah.
But if you look at direct action, it doesn't mean that necessarily. It means a march, it means a protest, it means getting on the street. It also means getting dragged off to jail, whatever. But it doesn't. So it's a bigger continuum than I guess maybe you allowed it to be. And so they use direct action. You're like, that's not direct action. I went to jail for direct action, right? And people or some people have. And then you have like these activists going into Whole Foods and holding up a sign and yelling, and they're calling it direct action. You're like, fuck that. But it is. I mean, it really is. And I think what Wayne's trying to do, and is to kind of like, he's doing like the almost. He's kind of like trying to popularize direct action, like people popularized veganism, right? So direct action is kind of like that moral fucking baseline that Francione or where people say, veganism is supposed to be, right? No, it's like the action is like the baseline now. Like we're upping, the bar now. Like you want to do something, go out and do something. Like do some action and kind of like be proud of being activists and like get out there and do some direct action. And direct action doesn't mean you have to get arrested. It could mean that you're just you're standing up and representing. So
that's a very fair point. That really is. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, so like I'm kind of like taking that approach and like I kind of did a tangent on that and on direct action. I'm kind of like trying to bring activism into like the science community. So the whole mammoth thing I did recently, which is completely different, completely off topic from veganism, but it was like the GMO issue was so important to me because as a vegan activist, I was an anti-GMO activist. Like EarthSave was like our we had ADL and we had EarthSave as a vegan scene here in Chicago. So I was part of the EarthSave crew, and we did a lot of vegan advocacy and tabling and blah blah. And along with that is like the anti-GMO, the organic, all that stuff too. So I kind of like was an anti-GMO activist, just by default with the vegan thing. And then when I learned about GMOs, I was like so pissed off. I'm like, what the fuck? Like I was totally wrong. And now I feel like I have some amends to do. And I wanted to kind of advocate. I do a lot of advocating on the GMO thing. So I started a project called Vegan GMO. And like, so you just hear that name, Vegan GMO. You're like, what the hell? Like you assume that's like anti-GMO, but then people learn it's pro and then they freak out, right? And so that's a fun way to kind of disrupt that whole, vegan GMO connection.
So how much money do you get from Monsanto?
The question has to come up, right?
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, we could. It's not even funny anymore because it's just like it's like an old joke. I mean, yeah, no.
It's funny. Like you talk about being an old GMO activist. I remember the very first ELF action I heard of was them pulling up some GMO plants. This was what 99, 2000-ish, maybe 2001-ish, and I remember thinking, they pulled up plants. They didn't save animals, really. And like I'm not one to be like critical of people's activism. Whatever you feel like you need to be doing, get out there and do it. I'm 100% okay with that. But it just seemed like so misplaced to me.
Okay, so exactly, dude. So one of the first ADL activists I met in Chicago was at a fur protest. I won't name names, but
you can. It's fine.
Call him Sparky Joe. Sparky Joe was he was like the animal rights activist, hardcore, right? The ADL all up and down. It's just like he was the shit. And then now he doesn't do any of that anymore. He does anti-GMO activism. I'm just like, dude, you're wasting your fucking time on this. There's animals out there. This is a real issue where animals are being killed. This is real. Like we all know this. This GMO shit, totally not real. Like you're totally wrong about this stuff, and you won't listen to me. And we fight about it all the time. We'll be standing shoulder to shoulder at a DXC event somewhere, and it's just holding the same fucking sign. He's holding one end of the banner, I'm holding the other end of the banner, and he's wasting his time on anti-GMO activists. I'm wasting my time on pro-GMO activism. And it's like the only reason why I do that is because I try and fucking negate this shit. So it's like he's wasting my time too in a way. Although So that vegan GMO project was something we started years ago. Then the March Against Monsanto. Are you familiar with that?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So this year, March Against Monsanto is happening, and then a couple of us online, some science advocates, we were just chatting about it. We're like, we should counter protest that. I'm like, and I just came off of like anti-choice counter protest in Chicago, and I'm like, we should counter protest that fucking shit. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And so we got together, and we Coven and Carl, we got together and we started this group called March Against Myths. So we pulled it together this march to counter the protest in May, and this March Against Myths Against Modification. We got like a logo design, we got T-shirts, we counter protested them. It was kind of weird. So homeboy over there, doing anti-GMO activism, yelling about Monsanto, and I'm over across the street, yelling pro-GMO stuff, and we're both kind of like, so there's vegans over there, right? So I'm like, I'm holding up my, vegans love GMOs sign, and there's like vegan anarchists with their black banner, like vegan anarchist, hate GMOs or whatever, and it's just a weird thing. But I wanted to
there are some vegan anarchists that really are not okay with GMOs. Just saying.
Not okay?
No, they're okay with GMOs.
Oh, they're okay. Yeah, I'm sure they are, but I'm not trying to paint a broad brush here. I'm just saying.
I'm just kidding.
No, weirdly enough, this mammoth thing, also chapters started up all over the country, and there was a ton of vegans representing, in Seattle, and they were holding up vegans of GMO signs too. It's kind of weird, just coincidental, I think. But I wanted to kind of bring, get the science people, they don't have to be keyboard warriors. They don't have to be nice. If there's an issue that's pressing and it's serious, what you do, you go fucking protest that shit. You get on the streets. You don't have to just sit behind a keyboard and type away or try to advocate in a educational setting or a school. I mean, you could do all that too, but nobody is going out there and counter protesting or protesting. I think there is a protest, pro vivisection group out there. But other than that, I don't think there's a lot of scientists or science advocates who think that's cool or even know how to do that. So I'm like, you know what? Okay, I know how to do this protest shit. Let's get out there and do this. So getting them out there to march and yell on megaphones and stuff is a blast. It's fun to kind of introduce that thing to a whole new crowd and explain why it's not mean to yell on the streets about something that you really care deeply in.
One of my biggest problems is that there's enough reason to hate Monsanto that you don't have to make up reasons to hate Monsanto. I mean, they are... Yeah,
if people were marching against Monsanto, look, we shouldn't allow companies to patent gene sequences, I'd be like, I'm down with that. That's cool. Right?
Or just
a
giant corporation.
Yeah. I'm against Monsanto because of capitalism. Okay.
Well, and people have a problem with. They're like, Monsanto does this, Monsanto does that. I'm like, every company in the world kind of just does what you just said. So you are just against capitalism. So kind of why is Monsanto
I am, by the way.
Child of that? Yeah.
No, you're totally right.
Yeah, no.
A lot of the claims I've heard against Monsanto, they're either snippets of truth to it and then highly exaggerated, or just not based in truth at all.
I mean, even as a skeptic, I still believed things that I heard that, even recently I've just found out are false. They've never sued any farmers or...
Monsanto's never sued a farmer for cross-contamination. That's the fear. The fear is that the cross-contamination, right? So somebody's doing I'm just doing farming, and then Monsanto puts their seed in your fields and sue you. I mean, that's the scary part, right? But that's not true. It's totally not true. I mean, they've sued farmers, sure, because they're stealing the product like any company would.
Yeah.
I mean, not to say that's good or bad, right? I'm just saying that's what they do. But they've never sued for cross-contamination. They don't want to piss off their customers, and their customers are farmers. And that one fact that Monsanto's never sued, it just blows people's minds. It blew my mind. I was like, what the? Are you fucking kidding me? Because that's the story that gets people riled up, Monsanto. And so I tell, I go tabling on vegan fast and stuff, and I put the flyers out about GMOs and stuff, and people say Monsanto this, Monsanto that. Monsanto never sued a farmer for cross contamination. They're just they just incredulous. They don't even. They think I'm speaking a different language at that point. They're like, what? I don't get that. And so it's but it's the truth. And so, what do you do with that? And I had to look at the Monsanto issue, and I looked at it really closely, and I wrote this post on Pythagorean Crank called "We Are All Monsanto," because we are. Everything that Monsanto does, we all do. I mean, capitalists do, right? I actually went to visit too. And I got a tour. Not that I would learn anything on the tour, because that's just a show. But I went there, I talked to them, I asked them questions, I watched all those damn movies, and I just made this long post addressing all the issues that people had about Monsanto. And now I'm a total Monsanto apologist now, but I don't think, because I've talked to their science people, like any company, right? How can you demonize people there that have families? They want to make food to feed people. Maybe there's some, person in a boardroom trying to take over the world, whatever. But the people who work there really believe in what they're trying to do. They're trying to feed people. They're making food. They're making vegetables, right? So why are all these vegans pissed off at a company that's making vegetables better? Shouldn't they be supporting that and not going after other animal killing companies? So it's kind of weird.
Yeah, I was going to say the only case I know of them suing was about, I only heard it was over one farmer, and he was purposely caught breeding the seeds that he wasn't supposed to, which is just stealing the seeds. Yeah.
I think Percy Schmeiser maybe was the one. There's a couple cases where it gets trumpeted in movies and stuff, and then you go look at the court documents. I mean, I just at some point I'm just like, I don't want to know anymore. I'm just like done, because I just looked through all these. I mean, researching the court documents, a lot of dry language and trying to figure out the truth and parsing it all out. It's a lot of time and trouble they don't expect you to go through. When you do, you find out the truth that it's not what they are saying is happening. So
I was going to ask, what do you think pushes the skeptic community away from the aspect of veganism and animal rights? Because you bring up the word vegan to a lot of like skeptics, and they're just like instantly thinking, "Oh, you're crazy." You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. When I was, as I became a skeptic, I did like the whole like vegan thing too. I like reached out to the meetups. I went to a skeptic meetup, and then I told them I was vegan, and they're like, "Oh, well, I could see that. So you're vegan for like the environmental thing, right, or health thing, because the ethical thing is a bunch of bullshit, right?" And I'm like, actually, the opposite what you just said. Because skepticism deals with objective facts and reality and science and all that stuff, and ethical part. I mean, there's been tons, of argument about what science could inform on that, but it's harder to argue on a skeptical basis for ethical philosophy. The people do it all the time, and but it's. I think. I mean, their skeptics are just people, and they eat meat, they eat animals, and of course, any time veganism gets brought up, like a thread or Skeptic's Guide or somewhere, you see all the fallacies. All of a sudden, everybody's like a big, a fallacy spotter. But you mentioned veganism or eating animals, and suddenly they just like can't stop but lay them out. It's one after another. It's kind of silly. It's just they're dealing with cognitive dissonance, and they're just having this knee-jerk reaction, which I had to train. Critical thinking is like something you have to train yourself, and it's like you keep doing it. Like you never stop doing it. What I do is I kind of just have flags when I say something or I feel a certain way. I made it like I just imagine like a red flag that goes up, and so I go, okay, there's something about this that's drives me nuts, and that causes me to be irrational. So what's going on here? And then I got to step back and go like, okay, wait, I'm not going to say anything else about it. I'll just say I don't know, or I'll need to just figure it out or research it more or whatever. But it's like you have to implant these flags that pop up. So like if a skeptic is like confronted with veganism, they go like, well, my teeth are sharp or something. They should know that they just made a naturalistic fallacy, or and so they should just have that flag go up and like, oh, wait a minute, let me think about that, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I don't know why. It's just that they're people and they eat meat, and they like it. So that's why I think I like meat too. I just don't like killing animals for it.
Yeah. You probably heard me say this 100 times on the show, but I like to tell people all the time I didn't go vegan because I didn't like the taste of it. Yeah. Mm-mm. But that's kind of like that's actually kind of a fallacy at this point, because I don't remember the taste of it anymore.
And it absolutely has no appeal to me.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I think I was just listening to a podcast. I've been kind of catching up on some of your podcasts, and I think you're talking about Beyond Meat. And you're like, you just forget what you're missing or what you used to know, and that kind. And you guys went vegan early too, mm-hmm. But some people have gone vegan way later, so they have more ingrained habits and tastes and palates and stuff. So I wrote this post on Pythagorean Crane called "Real Vegan Food" because you talked to Jamie about vegan cheese and all that stuff, but I really do think it's going to happen that we're going to just start engineering our food to replace, to cut out the end middle animal. We're going to be making in vitro meat and cheese and all that stuff. And part of the Vegan GMO project is to lower the barrier or the bar for people to accept those foods. Like vegans will never eat fake meat or cheese because they think it causes cancer and all kinds of goofy shit. But vegan GMO kind of like try to put out those fires, because it's going to be a tool in the toolbox of animal rights. I totally don't advocate veganism as an animal rights approach. I don't agree with that. People do that, and that's cool. Totally fucking do that. I don't care. But that's not for me. But with the vegan GMO thing, it is like, it's something that's wrong. I just feel it need to be corrected. And hopefully when, real vegan cheese comes out, it'll be easier for vegans to accept, although they don't fucking care because vegans are such a small part of the market. It's going to be interesting to try to sell that product, So.
Oh, sorry, Jordan.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, what's really weird for me about, like, the whole, like, in vitro meat thing is I have no animal rights ethical dilemma with it whatsoever. I'm totally cool with it. My only dilemma is the privilege aspect of it. Like, is it going to be one of those things that only a privileged few get to be able to have?
It's a total first world problem, dude. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. It's silly.
Yeah.
It's really silly. But with the vegan GMO thing, like I kind of say, like, yeah, that's stuff that we'll have, but there's other aspects of biotech that's going to help people in developing countries get fed. It's a solution to make food better, and that means across the board. It means everything from, so it's just all over the place, right? So yeah, we're going to get our fucking vegan cheese, right? But it's going to also feed some people in other countries. It's going to empower those people. So we could appeal to the first world problem of vegan cheese, but also and that's why I started Mammoths. One of the reasons we started Mammoths was to kind of like make sure those solutions aren't stopped, which Greenpeace is doing with golden rice and all that kind of stuff. Like that stuff, we need every solution in the toolbox, So.
And it's super tough because like you support Greenpeace like on some aspects.
I don't.
I like what they're doing right now with the Arctic drilling or whatever.
That's really interesting.
I have no idea. I actually don't know what they're doing with that.
They're hanging from a bridge.
Yeah, it's so cool. No, it's awesome. The visuals on that. I mean, I want to do that. It's fun.
It's actually super cool. I'm super excited about it.
So they're actually finally doing something worthwhile.
I know, right?
Yeah, and even Sea Shepherd's like, congrats.
Oh, okay. That's pretty amazing that even Sea Shepherd is like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's going on right now. I actually had to tune out of it to come here, but then again, it's the yellow rice shit and the GMO shit. It's do you kind of want to like talk about that? Because I mean,
we all just are kind of like going around that agree circle, but I know probably the vast majority of our listeners have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, GMOs are terrible. They're genetically modified organisms.
I'd like to genetically modify my orgasms. Jeremy.
So this is the route we're taking now, huh?
Apparently.
Jordan looked at me with those seductive eyes. It just happens.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so where were we at again? The GMO thing?
Yeah, well, like you mentioned, like golden rice. Like what actually is golden rice, and
Yeah. Okay, no. So golden rice, it's engineering rice. It's taking rice. It's putting, the yellow color that vegetables have. That had, carrots are orange because they have vitamin A, and so you put vitamin A in rice and it turns yellow, and then it helps people not get blind. So engineering food, right? So we've been doing the old school way of like, hybridization and breeding and stuff. Now we're getting really smart. We're understanding nature better, which is kind of silly. So I think it's more natural because we're understanding what nature's doing, and we're just going like, well, we don't have to do that messy way. We could just be more efficient with it. And so biotech engineers food to be better, and to be better, how is one of the questions. And I think surely any engineered food should be kind of looked at for what it is, and not kind of demonize biotech or genetically modification as a whole thing. But people tend to just go like, well, I hear glyphosate is bad and that GMOs use it, so all GMO is bad, which is not true. So I think a case-by-case basis is fine to look at. And when I say GMO, I don't really necessarily mean like a particular trait in a plant. I'm talking about like kind of that movement of like biotech. So shorthand or for like biotech. Do I need to explain like GMO stuff?
No. Like maybe explain like why Greenpeace is fighting it so much, like especially like the golden rice, because I've never understood like the pushback against it?
I don't know either. And they lost two, Patrick Moore and Mark Linus are two Greenpeace activists who left, and because of these irrational concerns Greenpeace has. And I'm not a Greenpeace activist, so I can't really, tell you why they're doing it. I think it's more just like what everybody. It just seems unnatural, right? So it's like just seems like a weird science experiment, unnatural. Radiation makes the ant grow large and attacks the town kind of thing. It's just like a B movie thing. People have this idea. How many movies have genetic modification as like the evil part? Like every superhero Marvel movie, whatever, has somebody doing genetic, experiments, and the plant blows up, and now they're evil, and that kind of thing. It's just this narrative that's in our culture right now. So
is Little Shop of Horrors GMO?
I don't know.
For some reason, when you went to movies, that's what popped into my head.
Yeah, I've never thought about that one, but yeah.
Anyways, I think a lot of it is like just what you're saying is like, I think the average person can understand like, oh, well, you cross-pollinate plants and you grow them, you get a different plant. That's okay. They understand that, and beyond that, it's just like, I don't understand your sciencey ways. You must be witchcraft.
I mean, I think a lot of people have like the wrong image. They think that, I don't know, that they're injecting poison into plants, or they're injecting chemicals into plants that affect our bodies in a negative way. I think is kind of like the idea that people have, like frankenfoods or whatever, and that's really not what it is at all.
Yeah, my buddy Kevin Folta he kind of try to reframe that and calls it precision breeding. I think that's an interesting way of kind of approaching it, to kind of put it into terms that people can understand. It's just like you're breeding plants, but with more precision. But it's of course, it's way more complicated than that, and also sometimes simple. It's just so it's just like, what is GMO? Like, you could take a gene from one species and put it into another species. I mean, that's called transgenesis. And so that's kind of scary. That's what everybody thinks GMO is. But there's also cisgenic. You could take the same gene from a same plant and just change it in a way. I mean, there's all kinds of different ways you could do this too, but you could stay within the same species, and that's GMO. But so what is scary about that, and the whole like syringe thing is kind of goofy too. You always see like the tomatoes with syringes in them. Yeah. And I think that the whole idea there is just that it's not literal. I always, as an artist, I always understood that to be just like this, the way you're just kind of like putting forth this idea of it being unnatural. And it's not a literal interpretation, although a lot of people believe it is. I just met with somebody last week who, let me see, I don't know if I want to get people in trouble, but somebody makes tofu, and I was trying to ask them, because I've been on this mission to try to find tofu that doesn't say non-GMO in the package, right? Like, I hate every fucking vegan product says non-GMO or non-GMO project on it. I just hate supporting that stuff as my old school like vegan consumerist ways says, oh, don't buy that shit, But I'm like, but I really want that, so I kind of just say, oh, fuck it, it's all non-GMO, so I'll buy it. But anyway, so I'm on this like funny, just goofy mission. Like whenever I go to a store, I'd look at all the tofu and I just try to find a package that doesn't say non-GMO on it, and I haven't been able to find one. But last year, I came across one package, and it didn't say anything about GMO, and I was just like, I was ecstatic. I took a picture of it and I posted it on my Facebook wall, and then we found out it was a local company. Oh shit!
Right, you just outed them.
So there's somebody that we could talk to. So I wanted I kind of joked. But one of my organizers at Vegan Chicago said, hey, we should do a tour. And I was like, okay, sure. And he actually got it together, and I wanted to talk to him. And I asked him about the GMO thing. And I was like, don't worry, I'm not like anti-GMO. I'm not going to jump all over you. Just explain, why you don't put non-GMO. And they're just like, well, we haven't thought about it. Honestly, the GMO beans GMO beans don't make good tofu. So that's kind of interesting because 90% of soy is genetically modified. Make a long story longer. She assumed that it was a black dot because that's where they inject the beans to make them GMO. And I was like, wow, okay, so there's a lot of misinformation. Even people who deal with soybeans for a living don't even know, and people actually believe those pictures of injecting vegetables. So I was like, wow. So that's another issue that you gotta fix. But yeah, a lot of misinformation about the GMO thing.
What about some other myths in general, like about Monsanto? And for example, do you know about the Blackwater thing at all? Is there any truth to that?
No, I don't know about the Blackwater thing really. I came across a few things that mentioned that, but I didn't really. It came to a dead end, and I don't hear a lot of it, so I just didn't really explore that. Do you have more detail?
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me just because any major corporation who's being targeted by activists.
It wouldn't be the first time corporation has targeted activists.
Yeah. And so
no.
Hiring Blackwater to infiltrate an activist group wouldn't really surprise me.
And I think the term Blackwater is kind of like just used in general for a wide variety of things. Maybe could be former Blackwater employees or
even former military.
Military. It could be so much, yeah.
But other than that, like, what are some of the like major myths that you've heard and can drop the call?
Are you trying to use my phone?
Are you there? Busy. I did. Hello?
Hello?
Hey, I don't know why it's being so
Sorry, I think my iPhone was having a problem, so I just swapped my iPad. Does this sound better?
Yeah,
it
sounds
does sound
like
better.
Definitely.
Okay, sorry about that.
No worries.
Anyways, we were just saying, did you know any other myths? Like
what are some of the top myths that that you're able to dispel that people just believe?
Gosh, I think it's just a lack of understanding about agriculture. The patents. It's hard to talk about patents, especially to anti-capitalist anarchists like yourselves. But and that's that's something that So the patenting happens, and it happens not just GMOs. So I guess the myth there is that patents aren't exclusive GMOs, and you could say like all GMOs are patented. But that's because they're so freaking expensive to make that they'll usually patent most of them, if not all of them. So I kind of, so whatever. But there's patents. There's the idea that, and Jamie went through all these too with you guys, I think, that farmers can't save seed. Farmers don't want to fucking save seed because that's a lot of work. I hung out with some farmers and went on a combine. I harvested popcorn with this guy. It was awesome. And so I talked to the farmers, I talked to the scientists, I talked to Monsanto people, I talked to everybody I could get my hands on to kind of find out the truth of these myths. And, so you hear these myths and you just kind of, vegans are just, or people in general, just accepting them. But they don't go beyond that. They don't talk to the people, and they don't, but Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff makes it really easy, and blogs and all that stuff, of course. So it's been pretty easy to kind of dispel these things, but people don't want to. They just GMOs are scary, Monsanto's bad, corporations bad, I'll hate it, that's cool, let's go. But there's real world implications for doing this. You're impeding a technology that's going to help people and help animals. On vegan GMO, we have these kind of points of why we're vegan, why we're pro GMO, and you see there's this like picture of these lumpy rats that all over the internet, and it's been all over the internet for years now. They tortured these poor rats to try to find some harm in GMO, and it was a total bogus study. It was bullshit, but you still see the same picture. So these rats are dead and tortured now, but the same pictures of their broken bodies are being paraded online by vegans. This is horrible behavior. It's despicable to parade the images of these poor creatures, these beings who suffered for anti-GMO. So there's a lot of animal testing going on. So they do. So GMO, like some GMOs get tested on animals, just like medicine and stuff. Not all GMOs do, though. It's not. So animal testing that the myth that all GMOs, there's animal testing required for all GMOs, it's a complete myth. So they don't need to test all GMOs on animals, but they do on some.
That's something that just bothers me in general when vegans use animal research as evidence for anything else. Like whether, they've proven that rats get sick when they eat a lot of meat or something like that. It's like, don't use fucking animal research to back your point up about something else. I don't know.
Well, and vegans should be. I mean, if we're an ethical movement, if vegans are an ethical movement. They should understand the ethical implications of discrimination. They should be anti-racist, anti-sexist, anti-ableist, anti-ageist, all this stuff. But you see that shit going on all the time. There's campaigns, and there's racist campaigns and sexist campaigns, and there are all kinds of gross behavior that vegans are doing all over the place. It's just so that's why I'm like, I don't see like a lot of my animal rights friends kind of like displaying a lot of that behavior, but I do see tons of vegans doing it. So that's why I kind of make this delineation. And I don't want to turn off vegans and paint them with one broad brush or vice versa or any of that. I'm not trying to like, I'm kind of venting here, but yeah, if veganism was an ethical movement, we'd see more ethical behavior from vegans, you would think. And that animal testing is one, so they're making all this fear about GMO, and it's just causing more and more animal testing. So that's one of our points. And then also like, being able to make animal alternatives like real vegan cheese and stuff. What if we could put B12 into a carrot? Like what if we can imbue our vegetables, with the vitamins like B12, obviously vegans need to get B12, right? So, we put D in milk and iodine and salt, and they do this, and our diets are supplemented. Like our diets, the food that we eat, we buy in the grocery store, that's not natural shit. That stuff has nutrients put in there so that, because everybody drinks milk, everybody eats salt, so that's how you get your iodine and D. But vegans don't drink milk, so they need to get their D, and so they make soy milk, and so there's that whole thing. So what if we could better engineer our vegetables to have all the nutrients that vegans need, like the B12 and throw some D in there or whatever. Omega-3s and that kind of shit. So, biofortification of our foods. I mean, that's going to happen more with GMOs. So that's another, environment for the GMO thing too. And then also like this vilification of GMO is putting it, into the hands of big corporations like Monsanto, because Monsanto has a huge budget. They could just overcome all these regulations. Like, you could throw up all these regulations in front of them, and they're like, we got the money to do that. But then you have indie causes trying to make vegan cheese and this kind of thing, but it's just so highly regulated and expensive that they can't overcome that. So that's like an anti-capitalist kind of angle there too. So
I mean, labeling GMOs is going to make, well, I don't know. I guess I can't say that.
You didn't say it was going to make it worse?
It's going to make it more expensive, but I have no proof. But
it's going to create an unjust consumer bias.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's been studies that, countries that'll put GMO labels on stuff and then consumers don't care. If they put a GMO label on packages, I think a vast majority, they're not going to even notice. They're not going to care.
It'll be like putting the sugar content. No one really gives a fuck.
Right. At the end of the day, I believe that. But I do believe in integrity. I do believe that labels should be based on policy and scientific reasoning. I mean, just on that point alone, I fight labeling, and I'm all for transparency and knowledge and more information to the consumer. But when they set up this narrative of GMOs bad, of course they want to kind of put GMOs in the front. Like, that doesn't mean anything. Like, what does contains GMO mean?
And where would you draw the line on labeling?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I know. It's
would you have to label like all corn because it's originally maize? I mean, it's stupid. Anyways, Mari told me before that you are expecting or just had a child.
Yeah, my life is really crazy right now. I just had a boy, and like a month ago, actually. And at the same time, our house is being worked on. So like, we're living in an apartment downtown. So we're living on the suitcases, and we just had this baby, and I just got back to work from my paternity leave, and it's my first baby. I just got married. So I just got married, just had a baby. I'm doing construction in my house. Like like Jamie said, I'm adulting hardcore right now. Like, I waited till my 40s to do all this stuff, and I did it all within one fucking year. So it's really crazy.
Well, that to me, that's super awesome. And congratulations on being in several groups that vegans hate, which is, you pro Monsanto and you're a breeder. That is one of the things I never understood the flack people get for having kids in our movement.
Oh, don't get me started. I just, I see people posting stuff like it's irresponsible and it's unethical. I'm like, fuck that.
Damn 20-something-year-olds.
Although I was there too, I think. So I get it.
Jordan's right there. He's looking at me.
Don't judge me for not wanting kids. That's fucked
No,
up.
if you don't want, no, I think it's great that people could do that. But then, don't judge me for having a kid. It's just, fuck that shit.
Fair enough.
That's another myth.
Yeah, we were at our first rendezvous, and I had like an hour long of like some couple activists just grilling me about how irresponsible it was me to have a kid.
Oh.
And just, ugh.
Yeah, I haven't had anybody tell me that to my face yet, but
let me be the first. You're irresponsible. You're hurting the animals.
Oh man,
because they might grow up to be a future carnist.
Yes, carnist. I love that.
I remember somebody wrote me when I was in prison, and they said something like their friend is having a baby shower, and that they wanted to get them a hanger as a present.
Fuck.
Oh.
I mean, it's kind of funny in a fucked up way.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought.
Oh my god.
It's funny as long as you don't actually do it, right?
I can't remember who that person was.
Oh.
Name names anyway, but so there's definitely that sentiment. Are you terrified of parenting?
Oh yeah. I mean, this is something that I had to. I don't want to get too personal, but I had to really do some deep soul searching because I didn't want to have a kid, and then eventually I came around to wanting to have a kid, and then doing it, and it scares the shit out of me if I think about it too hard. But my partner's awesome; she's super great and supportive, and she's really we're together, we're really doing it, and she's just like in her element. She just loves this kid. She's doing it. She's just like, I don't understand anything that's going on. I'm just like, tell me what to do. I'll do it. I mean, I'm just like a bumbling idiot about this stuff, but it's really awesome. He's only a month old, so he's still just a blob of like goo and not really being interactive. I'm really waiting for that moment where he started connecting, and I could, turn him into an awesome activist.
It happens way so fast. Just cherish these moments. Do
you have any advice for me?
Honestly, that's it. Cherish it because it just happens way too
really
fast.
Like I just want it over. I'm just like, just give me. I don't know. It's just like it's intense.
I was the exact same way, and now I look back on it, and that honestly feels like a year ago. And my daughter is almost 9 now. Wow.
I mean, people say that all the time. I don't know why I don't believe it. And I don't believe it.
No, it's just truly, I don't even know how to describe it. It's one of the, if you haven't been through it, it's just different, right? You're holding this blob and you have this instant connection, and it's just amazing. I don't know. I love it. But I'm curious to know if you were kind of like I was, like as soon as I found out, like when me and my wife got pregnant. I say we. I mean, she did all the work. Let's be honest about it, right?
Yes, of course.
Like we sat down. We did as much research as we could on just vegan diets and vegan pregnancies, and is this really like a good healthy way to raise a kid? And I was obsessive about it, and I already knew most of it. Right? Like I was pretty well educated to begin with, but I wanted to redouble check every one of my facts to make sure that it wasn't just this horse shit that was being sold to me. Mm-hmm. Did you do the same thing?
Oh, of course, because you don't know what to really trust and believe. You've heard all the arguments, all the information, but when it comes down to it, and it's really personal. Like there's a life, in your hand that you got to protect. Like you really want to, make sure. I mean, we got RDs all over the place. I mean, I have a RD with Vegan Chicago that gives advice to our members. I talk to Ginny all the time, and we bought like every book. And we're old school vegans. We're in our 40s. We we've read every book, we know all the RDs, we know all the science and information. We still, are always questioning because something new pops up. You're like, wait, what about that? And so, but yeah, it's I think that makes sense to just kind of be careful and critical about things. But we're well supported with all the information. So, but yeah, stuff like that pops up all the time. We're always like, should we check this out and make a call here or there or whatever. So,
at least for us, it's been way easier than I ever thought having my daughter be vegan, like raising her. Like, it's generally accepted, like schools, friends. I would say the veganism aspect hasn't really ever been a problem, except this weekend. She got really upset at a birthday party this weekend. Because she only had one option for a cupcake, not bubblegum and cotton candy like everyone else.
Yeah, no, that's also one of my fears. But that's like another one of the things I'm just like, you know what? I'll worry about it when I get to it. But right now, yeah, thinking about school and lunches and parties and other kids, and that freaks me out.
For us, really, it's been a non-issue for 99% of it. Like, it's really. I don't even know how to downplay it even more. It's really not been an issue.
And with Vegan Chicago, we have this Vegan Starlings group, which is like a family-oriented thing for people with kids and stuff. So we know, like, all my friends have kids, and so I've seen them. They're vegans too, and so I've seen them go through things, and it's like you said, it's like basically a non-issue because you're just like raising kids, and they're just absorbing what you are for the most part, it seems, and then it's just like so it's I don't know, but it's. Yeah.
I love it. I wish we had a lot more of a vegan parenting community here. Not enough for me to do anything about it,
and not one that tells you to eat your placenta and get the certain crystal.
Depending
on what month you have.
That's a huge issue, and we're struggling with the vaccine thing. Like there's the vegan family groups here tend to be anti-vaccine, and so we started our own because we don't, who wants to bring their kid, especially a baby who's not vaccinated, right?
To an unvaccinated family.
Yes. And so if we're having events, I don't want to bring people out and get them sick. They're having pox parties and shit. So, anti-vaccination is huge here. Way more than I thought. So it's a big one. That's kind of one of the reasons we started our own group, because we're like, you know what? No anti-vaccine shit in shit. So,
I am super excited. There is going to be a vegan flu shot next year available in mass.
Yo, I got a story on that. You want to hear the vegan flu shot?
Yeah.
So, Vegan Chicago, we table at this vegan fest here in Chicago, and one year we do these talks. We bring in experts, and one of the experts we brought in an expert on GMO. We brought in an expert on Ginny on nutrition to kind of dispel some of the vegan myths about these things. So we did bring a doctor in about vaccination, and we were at this. We're tabling, and we were like, you know what, get your flu vaccine this year because it was like flu season, and a lot of people stopped by. Of course, they said, well, flu vaccines aren't vegan, they use eggs. And so we, this was a couple of years ago, and we were like, well, that's true. We kind of still, say like, well, it's, what do you, it's like you got to do that calculation of eggs and animal products versus health and safety and all that kind of stuff. I get my vaccine regardless, but it's a personal choice, so whatever. But we're like, well, we heard about this vegan flu vaccine, and we'll find out more about that. So I spent a year tracking down Flu Block, it's called. Flu Block is an eggless vaccine. And so I approached them. I'm like, look, we have a bunch of vegans here who are interested in your vaccine. And there's like, why is somebody calling us looking for a vaccine? That's a weird thing. Like they just, sell the vaccine to, pharmacies and they give them out. But they don't really, I think it's odd to get like it's consumer. So they weren't even aware that the vegans were kind of interested in the thing, which I thought was weird. Like, why are you doing it? So it wasn't that they were trying to target vegans; they're just trying to make vaccines that are easier and cheaper and all that stuff. Allergies, I think was.
Yeah,
I think it was allergies.
I was gonna say allergies might play.
That's they have latex free. It's all these like free things, right? It's like so it's like really for the allergy market. And so they were like, oh, okay, yeah, I was like, how can we do an event? Like I was trying in my head, I was like, okay, we're going to do an event, like come out to get your vaccine. And how do I sell an event like that? Who wants to go out for an event to get a vaccine? It's going to be like 2 people. And And so it was just like a logistical nightmare to do it. So we never got around to do it. And then so they call me like a few months later and like, look, my boss is like, those vegans, you got to check out what's going on with that. So they were like, how can we partner? What can we do? So I was like, what if we do like a pop-up clinic at this festival that's going on? I mean, that'd be great. Like, there's a festival of vegans are all there already. We could just say, hey, you want a eggless flu vaccine? Here you go. Just step over here and get it, right?
I'd be there in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Right. Isn't that the coolest thing? Like, I bust my ass on this. I thought it'd be a brilliant thing. So we talked to the organizers, and they're like, yeah, sounds great. Let's do it. The only thing is, like, maybe they'll have a problem. Like, maybe the venue, it's at a park district. Maybe the venue will have an issue with it, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, well, the venue, but they had to run it through their board. So the festival board, had to approve it. And they denied it, and they had all these reasons. It was a bunch of bullshit reasons. And I countered all the reasons, like, look, this is not an issue. It's not a safety issue. It's not this issue. So it wasn't vegan enough for them. So what this vaccine does, and this is where like the intersections of biotech and medicine and vegans and all this stuff comes together, right? What this vaccine is, it's they use cells from an insect line. So they harvested some cells from an insect like 30 years ago. They put that in a vat, and then they grew them forever, and then they use those cells and use recombinant DNA technology, GMO, to make this vaccine without eggs. So they're using kind of insect eggs. So that's not vegan for them, right? So because it's using insect cells, that's not vegan. So I made the case that they had all these food vendors there, and I'm like, you know what? There's more. One insect maybe died 30 years ago for these thousands of flu vaccines. And all the seitan being sold at this festival is grown with wheat using pesticides killing insects. So you see where I'm going, right? Like, that's just like a vegan argument against flu vaccine. I don't even know what to do with that, right? They're putting that really weird argument against the health of the community because vegans are not getting their flu vaccines because of the eggs, and now they're afraid of GMO and insects and all that stuff. So they're fear-mongering about a vaccine that doesn't use eggs. Millions and millions of eggs a year are used for flu vaccines, and this vaccine off-puts that, but they won't get it because it's GMO and has insect cells. So it got shut down, and I tried every avenue to try to bring it there regardless, and it never worked out. So I'm really bummed about that, and that's why I spent the last year previous doing. So I think that's really interesting. There's another one coming out, I think, called Flucelvax or something, made with dog cells. So that's not vegan, I guess, either. But that's another reason why the biotech thing, it just drives me nuts, because it could really have benefits for the vegan community, and of course all the fucking eggs they make to make these vaccines. We shouldn't be doing that anymore. We should explore all opportunities to reduce the consumption of these eggs.
That kind of makes my brain hurt, because the vegan side of me says it's not vegan, and the logical side of me says it's makes sense.
Yeah, and that's I do that all the time. I'm like, I'm still, that vegan inside me comes out like, I'm not vegan, and I feel the same kind of struggle. And my head goes, shut up, it's good, it's saving animals. It's may not be completely pure vegan, whatever, but it's actually saving more animal lives, and it's hurting. An insect cell from 30 years ago, come on, dudes, that's craziness. So
I mean, it's no different than almost every kind of soy yogurt out there.
Yeah, I mean, you had to have gotten the culture from somewhere.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I actually emailed. I emailed everybody I could to try to figure out. I don't want to get political. I don't want to bring names into it and stuff. But basically, I found out that it was considered, because people were telling me it's not vegan. So, like, when somebody says, "Hey, that's not vegan," what do? How do you argue that?
Yeah, you check, you make sure.
Well, okay. So let me. Okay. Well, all right. So we have this vaccine, right? It's using insect cells from whatever, So you could technically say it's not vegan.
Okay.
I mean, right? So if somebody challenges you, like say you get that vaccine, right? Mm-hmm. Personally, I'm asking you guys. You get that vaccine, and somebody goes, "Hey, that's not vegan."
Are you there? Hello?
Somebody has to be like an authority, is what I'm trying to get to, right? So at some point, somebody's going to drag out Donald Watson and go like, well, the Bible of vegan says if it contains this many animals, whatever. So I did kind of contact somebody who had authority on that, and they're like, they asked me about the cell line, and then they're like, well, I guess if it was harvested, they did like 10 years ago or something, they just, I guess that's vegan enough.
They just drew an arbitrary line.
I mean, something like that. It was like it gets dogmatic to a point where like now we have to like quote Donald Watson, like, and he's just an old English dude, right? Not that being old is bad or anything, but he's just like from a long time ago. He's the guy who made up veganism. So why is everybody kind of like pouring through his text and trying to find interpretations to see what is and what's not vegan? And is that really the point anymore? So having that argument of is honey vegan and silk and all that stuff, and we have to like quote stuff and look, like that's a lot of time being wasted where we could just really get out there and like help animals out instead of arguing over these arbitrary lines.
I mean, if you fight anything down to the minute level, you're gonna find where there's grays, right? And veganism, we like to like have that stark line.
And I don't want like that totalitarian like this or maybe I'm not saying that right, but like I don't want to choose one thing over another thing, even if that's like, would you kill one baby to save 5 million animals?
Oh yeah.
I don't think I would, by the way.
And so it's I mean, part of me is feeling that like, well, yeah, I mean it's an insect, but it was 30 years ago, and so I hit more insects in a day driving my car, I'm sure.
Right. Yeah.
Well, it's just like I wouldn't fault somebody for having to use insulin when the only insulin available was
pig insulin.
Pig insulin.
Yeah. Thank God, though, we have GMO insulin that doesn't rely on animals anymore, though.
Yeah.
Thank you for wording it that way. I love that we started talking about your newborn and now we get back to GMO insulin.
Fuck, I'm really not all about the GMO thing. Although, you know what? Like I tell my activists, I tell my friends this. I'm like, look, animal rights is my fucking number one issue. Like they go, what's Java doing with this GMO activism? Like I don't know about that. I'm like, look, I'm really dedicated to animal rights stuff. Like that's priority number one for me. But hello?
No, we're here.
But yeah, there's so much stuff on my plate. But yeah, that's always, of course, because that's animals are dying right now all over the place like crazy. So like that needs to stop. And of course, that's like priority. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can't believe we kept you this long. I could keep having this conversation.
Oh,
forever.
I know. I could keep talking. I can't believe it's 9:00 already. Like over here. Yeah. Sorry for dragging this on, but
no worries.
This was fun. I could do this for many more hours. But I know we got to go at some point. I got a baby to get home to.
Well, how can people follow your work, get more information about your amazing shilling work for Monsanto and your animal rights work? I hope everybody, like people in Chicago, go to Vegan Chicago. Check it out. We got awesome resources there. People who are cranky, skeptic, and vegan, go to Pythagorean Crank. Look at all my ranting there, pythagoreancrank.com. You Google it. You don't know how to spell it. I'm not going to spell it out. Or I have a Twitter account, pcrank. Anyway, and then vegan GMO, go to vegangmo.com or .org. I can't remember, but that's about the GMO stuff. Mammoth.org. That's March Against Myths. If you want to do some protesting for science, that's what we're doing. And DXC, go check out DXC and do some activism. Get out there and do some direct action where you don't have to get arrested. But hey, if you want to, that's cool too. And I think I plugged everything. That's a bunch. Thanks for having me on. This has been really awesome, guys. Oh, no, thank you. Hey, are you still doing like those monthly meetups and things that you said, like the vegan meetups in Chicago?
Oh yeah, go to veganchicago.com. We have a huge calendar. We're doing all kinds of stuff this month. We got DXC events on there. We have dine outs. We have we're doing a picnic coming up. in a few weeks. And we have a book club coming up. Yeah, we got all kinds of stuff.
Hey,
So.
whenever you want, send us some of that stuff. We'll shout it out at the beginning for you.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So even if people aren't in the area, they'll at least know you're doing shit.
Oh, yeah. Also, like Vegan Chicago has the bullying detection guide, reasonablevegan.org, which is a group in the UK, I think. They did their own version of like a skeptic critical thinking vegan guide. That's kind of neat. So that's a resource that all vegans can use everywhere. I encourage everybody to use it, remix it, and do whatever you want with it.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Would you mind saying fuck shit damn for us?
Fuck shit up, damn it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night.
Thanks, take care, guys. Bye.
See ya. Bye.
Bye. This week you heard
You're My Chocolate by Savages.
Right now you're listening to
Takeout by the Sound Defects.
Wanted to give a big thank you to the AKPA. They had this to say on iTunes. If you hate meat and love fighting the power, this is the podcast for you. It's like if Andrew Jackson Jihad and Propagandhi did your school's morning announcements.
I want to go listen to some music now.
I am just honored that I'm even thrown in there with those type of people.
Right?
Seriously, that's a huge compliment. Thank you very much.
They're cooler than us. I'd rather have them doing our announcements.
I would totally I would rather listen to them do the announcements than me. But if you haven't yet already, please go review us on iTunes. It's super simple to do, and it helps out the show tremendously. So just please go do it. It only takes a second. If you already have reviewed us on iTunes, just pick up your friend's phone. They have the podcast app on there, most likely. Just click through. Do a little ghost review. # ghost review. If you sign onto a computer and somebody, is dumb enough to leave themselves signed into iTunes, do # ghost review.
Give us a 5-star rating, and if they aren't subscribed, subscribe them as well. They might like us.
It's a free gift that keeps on giving.
And if they don't like us, they can unsubscribe. It's not like it's a big deal.
Yeah, seriously.
Who wouldn't like us? We're charming. If you're not friends with us yet, you should be our friends on social media. Like us, follow us,
Converse with us.
We pretty much every day say things that we don't say on the podcast. So check us out. Talk to us. We'll talk back.
We're pretty nice usually.
I am.
Yeah, that's
I
for
don't
sure.
know about you.
Yeah, I agree with that statement. Fact.
Fact. #fact.
#fact.
Everything's better with a hashtag in front of it.
So do #FSD.
#SFFSD.
Fuck shit damn.
Fuck shit down.
Which Side Podcast is hosted and produced by Jordan Halliday and Jeremy Parkin of the Which Side Media Collective, with web design by Jordan Halliday and sound design by Jeremy Parkin. Booking by Mari Halliday. Theme music by Commandantes. Go to whichsidecollective.org to check out the other shows in the collective. As always, fuck shit damn.